Oh, weird. The sounds are all jacked up. I guess I should have pushed the test beforehand. There we go. And for some reason, everything got sideways when we launched. There we go. Welcome into the Jacked Ramsays live show. Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague. Let everybody kind of roll in. It is going to be a quick pace, rapid hurry, whatever you want to call it. Hurry up offense today is Coach Sprague. Coach Sprague's got to get out of here a little bit.
Thursdays are practice days and Saturdays game day.
So you mentioned this a couple weeks ago that you may end up coaching.
Well, I'm kind of doing like the helping out thing.
So otherwise known as you are the coach now.
Well, okay. No. The coach actually is not going to be at our practice today or our game Saturday, coincidentally. Let me ask you a quick question, real quick. Just like a basketball parent question, okay? I know one day you will have a little girl or boy play basketball. I know. If you're at practice and you're watching your kid play, you're just there supporting. You're just minding your business, watching your kid, right? And if they have a question, you try to answer it if they come to you during water break. Sure. What is your thoughts on dad who like yells what to do versus letting the coach teach what to do? Even if you know basketball, what is your philosophy there? What's your stance? Because I can tell you there is a dad like that in our group. And I sat there because I know basketball a little bit. So I'm just sitting there minding my business, but I want my daughter to be coached. I want her to go through that process because I found that very valuable for both good and bad reasons.
Okay. Younger year, maybe I've got this backwards. Oh.
My daughter just turned 10, just for like a reference of age and where her skill set or
Yeah, I think in the younger years it's maybe easier to defer to the parent because they have that trust in that bond that is there. And then later it's more like high school years is more coach. But and Haas says dad needs to stand down. So
that's my stance.
I think
I'm stand down guy.
For the most part, especially like once you're in high school, dad needs to stand down. Before high school, I think dad can get involved.
Okay, so hold on. So you're knowing what I'm saying, right? You're understanding.
Yeah, 100%.
You are on the sidelines, way away. They're on the court. They're doing a drill, and the coach is like talking to these kids, and you see your kid do the drill and maybe do something slightly wrong.
That far away, too much. Here's where I push back. When I was in high school, I played sports with quite a few guys that went professional,
right?
In various sports. They almost all had dads that were very, very active, I should say, in their development.
So you think that's a good thing? You think that is a reason? Because I would argue they just got great genetics and good work.
Sure, but I think that that relationship is I think there's like different versions of this. I think there's like berating dad who knows everything.
Now, we're not talking about berating dad.
No. I'm saying like even like coaching, like berating coaching. I think like there's levels to it. Like constructive coaching, like stay down in your stance.
Yeah.
Like reinforcement type stuff, or hey, remember what we talked about, or that kind of stuff. Regardless if it's like right here or like all the way across, I think that's for the most part okay. But when like you're getting in the minutia, save that shit for home, for the car ride.
Agree 100%. Sorry to interrupt the podcast. Let's go.
No. I think that's a great way to get into this. Visual says, greetings, Danny from California. Listen, hey, what's up to my home state?
Love Cali. Big fan of Cali.
Listen, I said something the other day. We were talking about weather, and somebody said that, NBA players don't like warm weather or don't like Miami or prefer somewhere else. I commented that don't believe that's true, but also I'm from LA. Like,
bro, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to sound weird because I grew up here and I've lived here my whole life. I've been to LA. I can't even count how many times now. I love LA. Like, if I get to go to LA, I get super excited. Could I live in LA? I absolutely could live in LA.
Yeah, I think everybody says that until they live there for like 2 or 3 years, and then they're like, I need to leave.
Well, I know where I'd want to live, and if I couldn't live there, then I would.
Yeah, see, people ask me all the time, like, would you move home? And I'm like, home? No, I wouldn't move home. For those that don't know,
Costa Mesa.
Yeah, listen, for those that don't know, I grew up across the street from the Coliseum. Like,
oh, I was just there. It's a really shitty area.
Like,
fun fact, my cousin almost went to USC. He could have got into USC and UW. he really wanted to go to the film school. When they visited from Washington, Battleground Washington, they
Slight
heard like
difference.
9 different gunshots, and they had all these riots going on. And his dad was like, "You are not going here." He was out.
So for those that don't know, USC's main campus is southwest of the Coliseum by about 1.5 miles, 2 miles.
Yeah.
That area is like the demarcation. That is the DMZ, okay? Like the second you take 2 steps north of the Coliseum, it is North Korea. It is just that is like literally the closest thing you could get to like North South Korea. It's like the difference in like culture and buildings and
just everything, life,
like,
man.
It's wild. I lived on the north side. So when everybody asks me if I want to go home, I go, no, I do not want to go home.
Did you do the walk over the line thing? Like,
oh yeah, hop back and forth. I'm on this side. I'm on this side. I'm on this side. Yeah, no, 100%. So welcome in everybody. This is kind of like just a weekly kind of catch up session. It's a weird season. It's a weird year. I just got off a podcast with the Kings guys, the Kings Herald. They're just kind of like, I kind of want Ben Simmons. They're in such a weird place, like fan wise, and it's been so futile for 15 plus years.
They're in a drought, bro.
They're
in a real drought.
I'd just rather just kind of go with the talent and like chasing the playoffs. That actually sounds kind of fun. And I was like, listen, man.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, Kings fans, obviously there's not probably any in here right now, but they could have legitimately had both Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, but they fucked it up.
Well, they fucked up many things. Let me throw it at you real quick, though, because I think it will lead into maybe what we get into tonight. What did you think of that report of that trade, the Kings and Sixers, with Halliburton, Hield, Barnes, and 2 firsts for Simmons and Harris? What did you think about that?
I think Morey's full of shit, and that was never offered.
Because, like, I saw that, and I think I saw it from one of those, like, aggregator.
Like an aggregator's aggregator?
Central.
Yeah.
It's like NBA Central, right? And somebody quote tweeted it because I don't follow my personal account. And I saw that, and I remember reading it 2 times, and I was like, why would the Sixers not do this trade yesterday?
Yeah.
Why would you not pull that trade?
A rookie scale guard, a 3-and-D wing,
a 6'4" rookie scale guard, a 3-and-D wing, and a 3-and-D wing with ring experience, and 2 firsts. And
also, they're going to take your god awful contract. So there's no
way that's a real trade, right?
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that was on offer. Now and then Daryl Morey today is like lying in public today.
Bro, I got a theory. I have an actual theory.
Go, hit me with it.
I have a theory that Daryl Morey, while very smart, and let me just make this clear. I like Daryl Morey because he will talk to guys like us. Like he engages with it.
100%.
He's not going to always agree with you. He's not going to tell you 100% of the truth, but he's pretty open. I love that because we never got that from the previous dude. I have a theory that he put himself in such a predicament that he legitimately doesn't know what to do. And his cards are playing out in real time of, wait, you said you had a pocket aces. I'm seeing 3s. I listened to that interview today on in Philadelphia.
Ooh, dog. That dog don't hunt. That dog don't hunt.
No, I think he's stuck. I think Daryl Morey doesn't know what to do. He put himself in a ditch. And he's like, shit, somebody come through with a real trade.
That's why when he said that, like, oh, a top 40 player would be good to have. And I'm like, the glass breaking, dun, 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 dun. That's CJ McCollum's music, baby. Like, the Blazers are
trade
back.
had 2 top 40 players maybe in it. You said, no, thanks. Come on, get out of here.
It's just like, come on, man. Like, that's why, what's funny is I don't like to do this. I mean, I'm lying. I like to do this. That's part of my problem is that there was a guy in there who, in my mentions back in November, was like, Daryl Morey's God, and what he does, here's a reason Ben Simmons is they're holding on to him. They're going to get exactly what they want. Oh, yeah, no, like the St. Daryl is a real thing. Hallowed be thy name in Philadelphia. Don't get it twisted. There you go. Drink it. Dropped it. Don't get it twisted for you. But the idea, like he's just infallible, and he's gonna bring them to the promised land. Like this is like false messiah type stuff in sports, and they maybe drank into the Kool-Aid a little too much. And what comes along with that now is that guy who I was like, oh yeah, they at the time in like mid-November they were the top of the East. They had gone 18-16 since then, good enough for 8th in the East. And his response is, "Oh, he's doing the right thing, though. He'll figure it out. You don't just let go of this." Not 24 hours later, you got Daryl like, "Hey, no, listen, Joel's just so good. So he's so good that our asking price is going down."
It was only the 50 points in 28-minute game. That's what it took for you to know Joel is so good. Like, come on, man.
Joel's on board. Joel's on board with fuck Ben Simmons.
You're with me,
That was 3 days ago, right? It was 3 days ago that Joel was on Monday, that Joel was in Daryl Morey's corner.
Yep.
How much has shit deteriorated in 72 hours for them to be like, top 40 player?
Dude, I love this. I thought I was going to get you to be like, fuck you, Sprague. Daryl Morey's the man. Because, like, I'll say this, it's not just in Philly. He's got, like, a basketball following. Like, the people who are in basketball, it's like, well, Daryl's too smart. Oh, Daryl. I'm like, is Daryl never made a bad decision ever in his life? I think he has, but like he's tried and he's risked.
He did trade CP3 for Russ, so.
Right. Yes, that's that is a relationship problem. But I keep watching these interviews and reading these headlines and these things, and I'm like, I think it's okay to say one of the smarter guys in that league
overplayed his hand.
Way overplayed a hand and is now in a predicament and doesn't know how to get out of this. So let me do some interviews and start talking and making it sound like way more appealing over here. I think that's plausible.
Oh, I think is a very strong reason for that. It was,
and I love that you're on my corner with this because I thought you might be against it.
Well, no, listen, I like Daryl. I think he's very smart. I think he's the best wheeler and dealer of stars maybe the league has ever seen outside of like
maybe Riley. I mean,
Riley and honestly Krause.
West.
Yeah, but you're talking like rarefied air, multiple title winners.
Yes.
Like
yes.
That's where Morey's kind of at as far as like big time transactions.
But what's missing for him?
The title. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those situations where like you look at like Terry Stotts, he was a longtime head coach at Portland, 9 years, didn't have a title. Every other coach that was employed that long or longer had one or more.
Right.
So this whole situation, it's very interesting. Not just the 76ers Simmons part of this, but the leverage between team and player. Because whoever wins this is going to be a blueprint going forward. If Ben wins this and he ultimately gets to go where he goes and where he wants to go, does Brad Beal next year do the same thing after he signs his extension? He's going to opt out and he's going to sign his extension, and then the clock's going to tick like we've seen for these other guys. They get their big money extension, and once they get their money, they're like, I'm out.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. I have made it very clear. I put James Harden in this category. I put Ben Simmons in this category. Do what you think is best for your own business ventures. I'm not going to be mad at that. What I'm not a fan of is going through it that way. Like James Harden quit on his team, went to a strip club, like
8 wings,
completely checked out, like made his teammates hate him. You want to get traded, ask for a trade. I don't like that part. Like I'm all about player mobility and player empowerment. Like that's cool. I'm for that. I think some of these we're crossing lines, but I think to counter what you're saying, Danny, I don't think Brad Beal will be that player. I think if Bradley Beal wanted out, he would ask for a trade.
Here's the thing. I'm going to push back on the asking for the trade thing.
Okay.
Because while I agree with you, what doesn't happen, and this is where I have the players back a little bit in this regard, there have been numerous instances of players asking for trades and GMs basically going, nah. And so they have to make noise, and then they have to make more noise, and then they have to make more noise. But that there is a real thing where like players have repeated, and it's almost incumbent upon the player to be like, oh, you need me to make this toxic as hell for you to understand like what I want. Because here's the thing: there are players
who are a line for that toxic kind of behavior.
There is
a line for that.
That's where like I think Harden took it too far. I think Simmons is taking it too far.
I think that's I'll say this about a basketball perspective. Like I'm a big fan of the league. I wish the league was more popular. I love football too, by the way, but those are moments that the league doesn't do themselves a lot of. Like people turn on the athlete in that situation. They don't go on the team.
It draws short-term eyes.
Yes.
So, D-Dog says it worked for AD and James Harden. Yeah, listen, it more often than not, it works.
It works. Yeah, it works. I'm not arguing it doesn't work. I'm just saying from a fan perspective, if you want out, I'd rather just be like, hey, can I get traded? And the team's like, you're a superstar. You don't want to be here. Yeah, we get it. Okay. Let's get some assets for you.
as it pertains to Beal, I think he wants to stay in Washington, but I also think he's going to have. Don't forget, Damian Lillard had a real, crisis of conscience. Mm-hmm. For those that are out there, Damian Lillard never contemplated leaving. Yes, he did, unequivocally in his own
met
words.
with LeBron and AD on a roof.
Unequivocally,
that happened.
Do not think that. Yes, he did. You know why? Because he spent 10 years playing for an organization that did him well, but never did him right.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, and he goes overseas. He plays in Japan, and he's hanging out with Dre, who goes, "Kiss the rings, bitches."
They were at the top of the pinnacle for basketball in the world, and he got to experience what being at the top of something
feels like.
Was, yes.
And to have real support around him.
And to celebrate, like winning the top.
Remember, he asked Dre, how do I do this? How do I pop the champagne?
He didn't know how to pop the champagne.
Like, do I spray it at you? Do I put the gauntlet? That's the most ridiculously tiny detail that's so insightful, and how Dame was like a little kid almost. Like
I think you said ridic, but that's okay. I enjoy it.
Did I? I don't know. It happens.
That's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
I just love it. I just love that.
It's just one of the most ridiculous things of how almost infantile and innocent Dame was in that moment. Yeah. I can have this?
Right.
And it's so cool to see that. And I think that's kind of what makes the frustrations around building around Damian Lillard matter. And Eric says, we all saw the Instagram post, heard the freestyle, didn't we? Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I don't think anybody in this conversation, in this community, doubts that. Is there anybody in the chat?
Not right now, but I've gotten comments on it before, he never questioned his loyalty. I never questioned Dame's desire and want to be here. That's right. Not what I've questioned. What I have questioned is does he want something else more? Because be somewhere for 10 years. Be somewhere for 10 years and tell me if you don't want something, if you don't at least stop.
And work your ass off and not maybe get rewarded for that hard work, right? In the way that you want, not financially. Obviously, he got that, but just in the game sense of it, that's. And by the way, loyalty can go two ways for people, right? It can be strictly you view it through the organization, and I think 90% plus would say that's what it is. He's made it abundantly clear he's got business here. He's going to live in Oregon.
Yeah, when it's all said and done, CJ bought 319 acres, 5 blocks from me.
Yes.
Those guys are going to live here long term.
Yes. They do love it here.
Yes.
It's just you get to a point in your life where I think it's okay to.
Channing still lives here. Steve Blake still lives here. Martell, Travis Outlaw. There's a ton of dudes who still live here.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They've all went somewhere else. And it's okay. There's a couple questions in here that I saw. Where was it at? Andy Marchand, is there any Simmons and Harris package to Portland you guys actually consider doing?
Simmons, Harris? I really don't want that Harris contract.
That Harris,
I don't want it. No thanks. I was wrong on that, by the way. I volunteer. I was way wrong. That was a bad contract.
The money that came from that is just so ridiculous. You're trying to get off CJ's deal, and it's a bad deal. Harris's is more money.
What was it, 190, right?
Yeah, I think it's 38, escalating up to 42.
Oh.
Yeah, it hurts.
Oh.
It's not great.
What's the average, 14 and 6?
I think he's at 8.
Is he at 18?
He's 18, 8, and 4. Let me take a look.
Okay.
He's not a bad player. He's just worth half that.
He is what you hope Nas becomes.
Yeah, better defense.
How tall is he? 6'8"?
6'8", almost 6'9", and he's solid.
By the way,
but as far as production,
yes. Yeah.
So on the season, Toby is 18, 7, and 4. The only thing that's kind of holding him back outside of just some defensive stuff, he hasn't been as good as he's been in the past. He's only shooting 31% from 3.
Well, I mean, he's not a 1 or a 2.
But even then, he's been a better 3-point shooter in the past, but he's a very good mid-range shooter.
I don't want it. I'm out on that.
If you could take Ben and Toby, and you got to keep the kids, and you pack. You know what? Let me do this live to figure out exactly what.
So you're in on that. You would do it?
I don't stop at it right away.
Dame, Toby, Ben.
Ant. Insert rim running center here.
Yeah.
Like like you start thinking about it and you're like, that's not a bad team, you know.
Well, and
like,
it's interesting. Here's my, now I'm starting to kind of dive into these waters a little bit. Here's the other angle of this. He's played with Ben, but Toby's played with Joel now for a few years. Like, is Toby any different at all if he's playing with a 6'2" point guard? You know, like how that offense would work.
Yeah, like does it look different?
Joel, yeah.
Let me see. So
I could probably talk myself into it. Now that
Toby, Ben for CJ, Cove, Powell works. Portland takes on $10 million there.
CJ, Cove, Powell.
Yeah,
I could see Philly being interested in that.
You'd
be a little small though.
You add Nance.
Yeah. I think you'd have to add Nance, right?
Yeah, I would say you add Nance, and you probably take Tybal.
You think he would part with Tybal? That seems a little misguided.
I mean, you're taking on
you're
3 years
I know.
Of significant money.
You wouldn't have a lot of wiggle room for roster construction, so like that has to be.
And that's where like
you got to hit
Tybal,
on those
Nas,
minimums,
like
you know.
So exactly, but so you could run Dame, Ant, Ben, Toby, go get your vet minimum, or you know,
who would be a
MLE.
good one? Let's think of one.
You go get your MLE, spend the MLE on Bamba and hope and pray.
That's not a bad alternative option.
No, and I mean, if you wanted to get spicy, you have Ant as your actual 6th man. You start Tease, and you have Ant and Nas coming off the bench, but then you got vet minimums everywhere else.
What's Tease shooting from 3?
He's 30%.
Yeah, it's no 3 Andy. It's just D. It's just D.
He's hit and miss in that regard, but you do pick up a lot of cover. I mean, you get the best on-ball defender in the NBA in Ben Simmons. You get one of the better on-ball defenders. I don't know. It definitely puts you in a world where it gets pretty spicy. Like it's not a.
I mean, that's a good starting unit, and if you can obtain Ant, keep him here. That's a great 6-man option, man. You can find maybe a couple minimums just to put alongside that. Stagger these dudes a little bit. Like, you could probably build a worse team than that.
Yeah, because I mean, you're, with this deal, you're actually taking on $1.7 million. So you'd need to shave basically $5 million from the roster by the end of the year in other moves to kind of make it work. It's like it's not great. It's interesting. It's an interesting theory exercise. Like, how sideways would this need to go for you?
I don't know why Daryl would want that though. Like, I can understand some of that, but like Norm and CJ with Seth, and you're giving you lose Ben and you lose Toby and Matisse. Like,
I mean,
I don't think they're really better?
I don't really think they're. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes them better. I think that makes them incredibly deep.
Okay.
Like you've got Norm, CJ, and Nance all under contract, and you've saved $2 million, and you're gonna have Cove fall off your books.
Yo, that's right. It's expiring. Then you trade what? Nurkic to Orlando for Bamba?
Something along those lines. Like, again, it's an interesting theory exercise. Like, it's kind of like what's the worst thing you'll be willing to do to take on Ben Simmons? Like, is it giving up Anfernee Simons? Is it taking Tobias Harris's deal? Like, I'm at the point where I am a strict no of giving up Ant for Ben. Like, in
what
any
about deal. What about other players?
Jalen's probably the line that I draw. Like, that's where you're gonna get me to go. Like, the difference between what Ant could be, which is basically like taller, more explosive Damian Lillard, or what Jaylen Brown is right now, which is a top 25 player in the NBA. Like, right now.
Legit size, can defend. I think he's a smart basketball player. He just kind of needs to be groomed a little bit with a guy like Dame.
It's, like I said, it's it's an interesting exercise to kind of run through in your head. It gets a little bit weird. Eric Fennell says, I want to see Ant alongside Dame. I would like to see it. It's just Rip City for that chip says, sorry guys, but Simmons and Toby and a lot of puke emojis. Listen, again,
totally understand it. I totally get it.
If the Blazers were in this position of bargaining power, we wouldn't be sitting here like parsing over like, well, I guess Ben Simmons. You'd be like, yeah, give me Ben Simmons now, or give me Pascal Siakam now. Like, if this was, if they had the Boston Celtics war chest of 2018, they could be like, yes, give me this, and you can have this, but I'm keeping this instead. They're not negotiating from a position of power.
No, everybody knows they need to trade these dudes. Like, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
If Dame's going to stay in Portland, which I think everybody's on the assumption that he is, then they're looking at this from the obvious standpoint of, you need me more than I need you.
It's really interesting here. I want to be a fly on the wall in Joe Cronin's office when he's on the phone. Moneyball, when Jonah Hill's sitting there like this, like,
yeah,
kind of like that. I would love to be there, like in the room with like, what's Joe doing here? And then yes, who is it they landed? Was it Carlos Pena? Or they dealt Pena. That's what it was. No, they brought in Pena. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen Moneyball, and I hate the A's.
I don't remember who they trade. I remember they signed Chris Pratt, who was that.
That remember when Scott Hatteberg.
Hatteberg,
yeah,
that's right.
Hattie, baby.
Yeah,
for sure.
Let me just say this too. What's nuts is we don't know what direction they're going to go with some of these guys. But what's nuts is how close we are to them needing to make that decision. And how, like, right now as we're doing this live show, Joe Cronin could be sitting at the practice facility knowing what the move's going to be, or feeling like
he's watching the show right now. Joe, my DMs are open.
Joe, hop on. Like, let's have some fun. I love this stuff. We're nerds.
Somebody asked me, like, do you think you can get Terry on the show? And I'm like,
Stotzy?
Yeah. Listen, I'd bring Terry Bear in a second, but I bet you right now he's just like, nobody gives a shit what I'm doing, and I'm making $10 million a year, and I get to walk around like a Oswego and drink my beer. So
I kind of just view it as like, too, you'd have to ask him the obvious questions. Does he want to talk about that?
No.
I mean,
no, I wouldn't.
He went through that shit for a decade.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wants to talk about it right now.
Listen, if Stotzy decided to write a book just about the sideways shit of the last 2 years, that
Sure.
I would be interested in.
Sure.
100%. Just like, here's what's going on. If we feed Nurk beer and Savapi, we'd turn him into his dad. We'd be incredible. That's pretty good. Here's kind of wow, that was a weird cough out of nowhere. Excuse me. Here's kind of a dividing line. What's your take on this? For sure, asks Pascal for Ant. Is Siakam the dividing line of like what you would? Because I would push back on Siakam because he's older. Because Jalen's, I think, 4 years younger than Pascal.
What is Pascal, 30, 31?
I think he's 28. Let me double check.
28, okay.
I'm double checking right now. Philly, Toronto, because he was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
He's 27.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I was just like,
Yes.
You would swap Ant for Pascal?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They need. I mean, Danny, we've seen the guard run, man. Like it's not a hatred of any player.
I understand that. But I'm looking at like value
wing.
scale, like of like what you would.
Well, I mean, Ant needs to do a little more, I think, to tip the value into an even space, right? Like it's still Pascal, but you're banking on the future. I would imagine you and maybe a lot of people would say Ant in the future, but I think right now and maybe even the next year, I think it's Pascal. So can you capitalize with Dame in that window? Because we're operating on the assumption that's the window, right?
Yeah, and speaking of windows, I've gotten a lot of this over the last couple weeks. Casey says it and Gray says it. Basically, like the idea of like Ant's been so good in this run, should they really consider trading Damian Lillard? Listen.
Oh, I think that's going to keep building.
It is. The better Ant,
going.
The better Ant plays, it's going to be a real thing.
It'll make you feel. Well, I mean, it won't feel good, but I think if it came to something where the letter O feels differently. And I don't expect him to, because again, he's been adamant about it. But like, if that situation popped up, I think Blazer fan would would wish him well, root for him wherever he goes. And you'd kind of feel a little like happy and optimistic and excited because you would have a clear restart piece. Like you're already starting with a chip. And that's the hardest thing in the NBA to get, is a chip. So it's like you would feel good in that sense, especially knowing what you get back in return.
So I've seen a lot of, not a lot, but a fair amount of, like, they should really consider trading Dame. It's not spreadsheet basketball. Like, he's more than just Damian Lillard, the basketball player.
Yeah.
What he means to this organization, it's a non-starter.
Oh, for sure.
It is a non-starter for everybody out there. Like, I can't believe that it is NBA suicide to trade that guy right now. If he asks out, it's different. But it is they cannot do that. And it's kind of in this weird spot. And somebody else in chat says, ER says, raise the ant stock and trade at peak for something we need. That's also a really dicey proposition, because in doing so, unless you're trading for a guy who's 24 years old, you are giving away the last thing that you have. And it turns out that last thing that you have is really good.
Yeah.
And they are not the Cleveland Cavaliers where they've got LeBron and Kyrie. They've got old LeBron and Damian Lillard. Still a really good player. Top 10, top 7.
But not what LeBron was.
Yes.
Otherwise, this Laker team wouldn't be below 500. They would suck, and we'd be like, how is this team good? And you'd be like, that guy wearing number 6 is pretty really damn talented. Yeah.
But that Cav team had LeBron and had Kyrie maybe at his best. And then they went and add, in prime Kevin Love. Or the Heatles. They take Wade and they add LeBron and Chris Bosh. Right now, you need to get the number 2. Ant might no shit be your number 2 right now. Like, terrifyingly, he might be. But he should probably be your number 3 for a couple more years. And what you're hoping to do is either get another good, really good number 3, and then take that and parlay that into a number 2, or suck enough to where you get a top draft pick to where you can pair that with your other number 3 and go get your number 2, or that draft pick hits. Giving up your youth right now when you didn't have a legit fallback beyond that, you end up becoming the Kings or the Magic. Like you're just bereft of assets, and you were in a bad place. Yeah. It's a lot.
No, I mean, there's obviously a line for me, and I think there should be and is a line for most people with him. Like, you're not just throwing that in for like a roll of the dice, run of the mill player. You know what I mean? Like, you're either getting top end value because of how good he's played, and I think how good he's going to continue to play, or you're keeping and you're establishing how can you construct the roster to make it make sense for him and the team.
Yes, and that's the dynamic at play right now. Like, not only you try to manage Damian Lillard, and this is the reason they have to do this, and why I say it's not spreadsheet basketball, is that while they're going to sell the team, relatively soon, in like a sense of like selling the team, like in 5 years, I imagine, in 2 to 5 years.
Soon. And that's not soon enough for people.
Sure, but I mean, as far as like managing the team goes, they have to consider life after Damian Lillard. This stuff does not operate in a vacuum.
Absolutely,
you get that.
Yes.
And that's where I see people, well, they should just move on from Dame. And then what?
Well, that's kind of my point, is like, I'm kind of in a place where if he wants to be our Dirk, I'm in.
Yeah. Like, that's a good thing to do, like string out for a little while. And I am very much you should be building towards an NBA title or tearing down. If Dame wants to ride out into the sunset, he has earned that. You take 2 more years and you grind that down. And then you know what you do? You've got Anfernee Simons, who is 24 years old. And you're in a really good spot.
We didn't just now get rid of Neil Olshey. After all these years of incompetence and lack of testicular fortitude to make a trade, to then immediately after we get rid of him say, all right, Dame, thanks. No.
Big gulps, huh? Well, see you later.
You owe it to him as an organization to go all in and build what you can as quickly as you can for that guy to have a shot. And if it doesn't work, me and Danny have talked about it. Like, I'm okay saying, well, move didn't work. We were wrong, or, whatever it is, like, you owe it to him to do that. I think you owe it to the fan base. That's why I don't get the fan base that's like, maybe we should just trade him. What? This dude's played here for a decade, doesn't indicate right now today that he wants to leave. And we finally got rid of the one thing that got in the way of roster construction. And now you want to trade him? This doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, no, it's a weird spot to be in. Justin Poole says, how hard does Dame try to get players to come here? It seems like when players actually come, they realize how nice it is here. Well, the second part of that is maybe gassing the home crowd up a little bit. It has to appeal to a certain kind of player. Because there have been plenty of players that come here and went, fuck this place. And they have been gone very quickly in the offseason.
If you're laid back and like to smoke weed, it's a great place.
Exactly. So you got to figure out which side of that pendulum you fall on. The I want to be around parties and club scene NBA young player, or I just want to chill young NBA player. If they get a hold of one of those guys, which I think Dame kind of falls in the latter as far as like being just a chill dude, it works. But Dame has recruited. But the problem was the Blazers either didn't have salary cap space, number one, or number two, they weren't willing to trade the $30 million guy behind him to make room to bring that guy in. And there's another comment in here. Tyler Riggs says, Nilo not trading him, I'm assuming he means Ant, for Aaron Gordon last year actually makes sense in hindsight. I want to clear the air on that. They could have had Aaron Gordon without giving up Nas or Anfernee. Neil believed that Covington was the better fit.
Two firsts.
Want to clear the air on that one real quick.
2 first-round draft picks for that guy. Want
to clear the air on it. And again, I like Covington, and I was okay with the deal. I wanted Gordon more. Pretty clearly on record of that. But it was not going to require Anfernee Simons. They got R.J. Hampton for him. The bar wasn't that high.
Yeah, I was going to say, could Portland have swung it when they got Norm?
Oh, God, yeah, 100%.
Because then they both got traded around that time, right? Wasn't it like 2 weeks apart?
Same deadline, yeah.
Yeah, same
but
deadline.
It wouldn't have even costed Gary, to be honest. If they had given the second pick, the option was 2 first-round picks, or a first-round pick and a promising player. Remember, Gary Harris was the kind of the flotsam for the salary, or R.J. Hampton, and then the first-round pick. Had they given 2 first, it was not they didn't have enough on offer. It was they didn't make the offer for Aaron Gordon at that level. They could have given the 2 first-round picks up to Orlando, gotten Aaron Gordon.
Instead, he went and got a 6'3" dude. I think what we have found out about Neil, and by the way, doesn't want to call him small, I think Neil had a fetish for really short people. I think Neil was just all in on shortness.
I got to give Richmond credit. He said he treats them like Pokemon. You got to catch them all.
I mean, for real, there's a fetish there or something.
There was a lot there. It's I don't know. Visual says Damian Lillard doesn't even want to give the team a discount. One player in NBA history has done this. It's Dirk.
Tom Brady.
Well, no, Dirk in the NBA. And again, it was after they won titles.
Did Kobe give the Lakers a discount his last 3 years?
Okay, the second deal after the Achilles, yes. Yeah, after that deal, but not before.
Oh, that's right. Mr. Loyalty.
Again.
It's a business, man. Yeah. Is Dame supposed to say, what, I don't want that $15 million extra per year? If you can't attract anybody in free agency and you trade your trade chips for a more competent roster, how do we assess what you do with that money? Striking out on free agency? Remember when we didn't get Chandler Parsons and half the fan base was like, damn it, Chandler mother bleeping Parsons. That's where we got.
I got to tell you a story about that one off air. There's actually more to that. It's kind of bonkers when you hear it, but I actually don't get mad at Neil for that. As weird as that sounds.
Offering Chandler Parsons?
As weird as that sounds, when I tell you this story, you're going to understand. It's going to blow your mind. So sorry to everybody else here, but that's...
You're a tease.
Yeah, I am definitely a tease with that one. There was another question in here. Visual says no one doesn't owe anybody anything in life. Dame can be traded at any time. I don't buy that because there is a trade-off here that does take place in this, and it's not a 1-for-1 transaction. Guys like Dame don't come across very often. Like, one of the things that I've talked to a lot of folks in the NBA about is that you're not going to see a guy stay with a franchise for 10 years anymore. Just it's eroding. Like, after they get 7 years, like you get your first, your rookie deal, and then you sign for 3 so you can get that max earlier. And then you sign the 1-1, so you hit the 9 years and you get the super max with all of the that's the blueprint now. And that's 3 different times in the first 10 years of their career that they have like legit mobility. And I just don't think you're going to see guys stay around for that long. And it's hard to really put a number on what that means to a franchise to have a guy like even a guy like Terry Porter. Terry Porter was basically like nobody remembers him anywhere else but Portland. Nobody
remembers the Bucks days.
Nobody remembers that because he was here for so long. Nobody talks about, oh yeah, I remember that time. No, he was a Portland Trailblazer through and through because he was here for so long.
Who was the last truly loyal star that this team had?
And here's the thing. It's Damian Lillard, and that's the list. Every single franchise star has left this team.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one.
And it's not ended well.
No. Every single one of them has been a messy, god-awful shit show of a divorce.
Clyde is a Houston Rocket in the NBA Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. And he's not calling Portland Trailblazer games. And I don't begrudge him. He's a Houston guy through and through. That's his blood.
The team thing is weird. I mean,
it is weird.
That's a little weird to not go in as a Blazer, but be a Cougar too. Like, you could have had both.
Yeah. Bill Walton wanted to throw the entire medical staff off a cliff in Portland.
Filed a lawsuit against him.
Yes, it was ugly. Brandon Roy cost Paul Allen tens of millions of dollars and broke his trust.
Yep.
Like LaMarcus Aldridge pieced for nothing. Rasheed Wallace gave 2 birds on the way out. Every single star in this franchise's history is dipped on less than great terms.
Yep.
Having that guy be that guy, and let's say he plays 16 years. Let's say he plays 4 more years here, and then like a year in Oakland or a year in Utah. He's going to be Portland Trailblazer Damian Lillard.
Oh yeah, he'll sign back and retire as a
that's what I mean. Like he'll always be that guy.
Yes.
But to spend that long in an organization, man, doesn't happen anymore.
Let me also add to that. Who asked the question again? I'm sorry.
There was a couple different versions of it, but just like the general idea.
But to also let me try to make more of a case for what you're saying. Like maybe you feel that way and that's how you feel because it's the NBA and it's a business and it's about assets. I think people, and maybe it's not these people, but I'm just going to throw this out. I do think there is a portion of people that are forgetting what this dude is when he is 100%. When he's not dealing with an abdomen injury and how he can turn the corner, how he can get to the rim, how he can shoot from 33 feet looking like he's shooting a regular basic jump shot to hit game-winning shot game-winning shot, to go like 4 games where he's averaging 45 or more. Like,
remember 55 against Denver? 55-point triple-double?
I just saw the highlight, like his 60-point game against Golden State. And he's lifted this franchise to the postseason. It's not been successful. It's not gone deep most of the time. It's been a little like lucky just in where they've ended up. But like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how we get there, how we get to that point where it's like, yeah, if we trade him, cool, I'm ready. This dude is an all NBA point guard who's capable of hitting every game shot, hitting threes from a ridiculous level, like giving teams nightmares in terms of going against him. And I feel like some of us are forgetting this because he's been out for so long.
Because recency bias.
He hasn't looked like himself all season. And I think he's going to remind a lot of people after he comes back with this surgery, like, I still know how to play basketball, guys. I don't know how peak or his prime, how much longer that goes, but I think it's at least 2 more years.
I think you've got 2 more years, and that's a tough place to be. I know we got to get you out of here in a few minutes, Brandon, but I want to get a couple things in here real quick. There was a question somebody asked about Covington, whether or not he could get a first, and there was a note in there about Nate Duncan and Hollinger, unsure if he could recover a first. I think he can get a pretty heavily protected first that basically kind of turns into 2 seconds, but it looks pretty. Looks like a first.
Top 29 protected.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. Like, doesn't honestly, like the one we gave the Bulls. I said we. I haven't used a collective in a long time.
You wear the hat every podcast. Eventually, you got to drop a we once in a while. It's okay. It's all right.
It happens. It's to let everybody know I care.
Dude, we're fans.
Also to hide the sweatiest hair I've ever had.
You got a Peloton workout.
Oh, yeah. I got a Peloton workout for the first time in a month. That way I can go get my hip cut open. But I think they can get a viable asset for him.
Yes.
Which will then be flipped. Now the chat is basically just everybody like rehashing how shitty it was when every star they've ever had left. Yeah, sorry to bring those memories up.
But I think it's good perspective to have those memories. Like, you know what that felt like, how much that sucked. And we don't know what the future is for Ant. So, like, that aside, I've said this before. You trade Dame, cool. You could just as quickly become Orlando. You're not given that you're going to trade Dame and be Cleveland, and 3-4 years later, you're right back in contention in the conference. That's not a given here. Yeah,
there's a good question here from Casey Darnell. For anybody who's followed me for any period of time, knows that, again, I am very much on a trajectory guy. If you're not building up towards a title, you need to be tearing down. That's not a binary thing. And there are exceptions to that. And I say this because he asked, do you honestly believe we could build a real title contender around Dame? I don't know. Unlikely, because it's very, very hard. Most of the NBA titles have been won by the Lakers and Celtics. They almost half, I think, is what it amounts to. It's like ridiculous.
It's not a parity league.
No. But they have not, for the last 7 years, done remotely anywhere near anything that they should have done. And I am willing to prolong that for 2 more years as a fan, as a supporter, as a media member, as a guy who covers this team, to give him at least as close to a real shot as he could have. And if that means, it stifles the organization for 2 years, like when they're a pretty damn good team. And I don't say pretty good in the sense of like the Dame CJ teams, because those were pretty good teams. But let's say they get Jeremy Grant and Miles Turner. Like, is that a title team? And Ant really pops? No. Is that a top 3 team in the West? Could be. Could something happen in that 6-month window where everything comes together and you can flip Jeremy Grant plus your tanked draft pick player, whoever that is, for Paul George, Jaylen Brown? Let's say the Celtics go sideways, and now you've got Dame, Ant, Jaylen, and Miles Turner, and you fill something in here, and now you're going, well, shit. I don't know if it's a title team, but I know nobody in the NBA wants to play this team. Like, then you start kind of looking at kind of the same model that the Phoenix Suns had, where Damian Lillard riding off into the sunset is your Chris Paul, where Ant kind of turns into your Devin Booker, and whatever star player slots in there, now you're like, oh shit, this kind of, your Jaylen Brown now is kind of like uplifting the whole thing, and you've got a defensive backbone who just does shit, and you get a Jay Crowder type or a Mikal Bridges type, and all of a sudden you're like, I could see this team like getting hot, and they could make a finals run. If that was the best they ever did, if they gave Damian Lillard a chance at a finals run, let's say they went to the finals and they lost, like the Suns just did. Do you think anybody in Phoenix is sitting there saying that they didn't do enough around Devin Booker now for the rest of his career?
No, I mean, it's going to sound stupid to say this, but like winning a championship's the thing. That would feel like pretty damn close to that. I think this city would feel that way. Like,
yes.
Shit, yeah, man, we did it with the dude who wanted to do it with us. And I'll add to this quick because I do have to go, but I want to add to that. That's the thing that's standing out for me is it's been poor roster construction for 5 years, maybe longer, probably longer. I don't know what they're going to build, but you have an opportunity to build something better than what you did. What are the Lakers next year? What are the Phoenix Suns with Chris Paul getting older and older? Where is Kawhi and the Clippers going? Dallas hasn't figured it out with Luka.
Is Denver ever going to get healthy? Is Donovan Mitchell going to kill Rudy Gobert?
They might be one bad playoff appearance this year away from having to kind of blow that up a little bit, tweak it.
Donovan Mitchell to Miami is already.
He already put that out there.
It's been out in the background for 2 years. It's nuts.
Okay, so you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Utah, Steph and the Warriors are amazing, but we don't know if is Draymond going to be cool if they don't win.
Dre could be the guy that ends up in Portland.
So I'm just saying, like, start going down this list, folks. It could very well not work out for you. That's a possibility. But it also could line up where if your team of what you said, Grant, Turner, Ant Pops, you wouldn't say, champions. But the West is not – it's getting worse than the East in some respects. Like, the East has a lot of good talented players and teams. You look at the West and you're like, you kind of go through the process of elimination, and there are a lot of holes for these teams and where they're going to be next year.
Those peaks and valleys, they're different for every team in all these different cycles, and all you got to do is be there at the right time. That's what the Phoenix Suns did.
Yes.
And that was the problem, is that the Blazers didn't try. By not moving C.J. McCollum for 5 years, they didn't try.
And that's our point, yes.
And that is what pissed me off. Steve Peterson says, Draymond Green is never coming to Portland. Stop it. Oh, buddy.
I wouldn't say it's impossible.
If you only knew. We'll get out of here on that. Thank you guys so much. Coach Sprague has got to get out of here. Dimitri says, am I late? Yeah, we're just wrapping up, Dimitri. Sorry.
Catch the pod.
Yeah, catch the live replay. That'll be right there for you. It'll go on there. I'll take this and throw it on the podcast as well. We will be here for the pre- and post-game show tomorrow against Boston. As far as what I know, it looks like Nasir Little probably is going to give it a go. He took a little bit of a knock the other night, but it sounds like he's going to be better.
Nice.
It's didn't sound too serious, so it's good to see the young guy back out there because I want to see him take on the challenge of Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. That'd be good for him. And then they have a day off, and then they got Toronto. Whew. This road trip is wrapping up. So thank you all so much. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. Help us grow the community. If you haven't already, please subscribe here. Help us grow here on the live show on YouTube. If you want to become a member, click join, $2.99. You can come through, join the live parties. Live watch parties. I am, was it Sunday the 23rd? Yeah, 23rd is Sunday. We've got Jamie Hudson. Hud Dog will be there for the post game, hanging out with us, talking about the road trip and how everything kind of wrapped up. That'll be following the Toronto game. I am trying to effort a few other folks to come in. Also, if the Blazers do make a trade with the Indiana Pacers, I have Caitlin Cooper booked. So there you go. She has agreed to come on and talk about whatever Pacer may get moved to the Portland Trail Blazers.
By the way, both big men out significant time.
Yep.
Right in line with
so
the tank.
it's like, here we go. So thank you all so very much. We appreciate you. We love you. Brandon's going to go coach and start his own youth dynasty. We will catch you all later. Take care. At Jack Ramsays on Twitter, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague, at Jack Ramsays@gmail.com.
Good stuff, guys.
Until then, take care. Talk soon. Y'all have a